It's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with Colby Thicknesse, talking about an up-and-coming fight. Interesting one between Tyrone Woodley and Jake Paul on August 29th. Any thoughts on this, Colby?
I hope Woodley knocks him clean out. That's my major overlive thought with this, but we'll have to see what happens.
It seems like every actual fighter hates their guts because these guys are just earning so much money without really doing the hard yards in a way.
Oh, spot on. Like, fair play to them. Obviously, they sort of built their brand, built their audience and everything, so their following's translating, but it's just a pain in the ass, and their following's like fucking 15-year-olds and shit like that. So, yeah, it's not fun.
That's it. At least it brings a bit of attention to the sport. I think it translates in a way to probably bigger salaries for everyone, especially at the top end, because they're just bringing more attention to the fight game, you know?
Oh, definitely. And the way they I think is it Jake or Logan, the way they speak about fighter pay and that, like, I commend them on that because they're very they're all for pay the fighters and stuff like that, which is what you want.
Yeah, and Jake Paul in particular doesn't really do himself any favors with everyone. He acts like a little spoilt brat or something, especially during the press conferences. He looks like he's a 15-year-old himself, the way he talks, right?
He's a clown, eh? I just noticed the actual fucking clown hair on him, and that fits perfectly.
That's it. You think though these sort of fights, like everyone's sort of upset about these fights and that, but there's been celebrity fights or interesting fights going forever, right? Like old days, Ali fought a Japanese wrestler called Inoki, and even stuff like Bob Sapp fought Ernesto Hoost. All these sort of things aren't like your conventional fights. There's always been an interest, probably back since the Romans having lions fighting humans for kind of strange matchups. And it's probably nothing much different. We got the kind of amateur level boxer versus a kind of a legend in Tyrone Woodley. So it is an interesting matchup.
Oh, for sure. I'm keen to see sort of how it will play out. And like, obviously with the training and everything, it's going to be cool to see. But like you said, there have been lots of sort of freak show matches and stuff like that. Even just cross promotion, like Tenshin versus Mayweather and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, as long as there's more eyes on combat sports, I think everybody sort of wins.
Yeah, true. Having a little look at the tail of the tape, so to say, Tyrone Woodley, he's got 27 fights in MMA, that is, 19 wins. He's had no boxing fights, but it's still kind of relevant. And the thing that I think is relevant is he won like 7 of his fights by KO. That means he's got the punching power. He's not a Ben Askren, so this adds to a little bit. And he's got a few KO, those KO wins as well. So seven by KO is against Robbie Lawler, Dong Hyun Kim, Carlos Condit, Koscheck, Jay Hiron, Andre Galvao. These guys are pretty tough guys,
Legit,
so to be getting KOs against them shows his punching power. He's 175 centimeters, 5'9" versus Jake Paul's a little bit taller. 170 pounds, 77 kilos, his old fighting weight. But he cut down quite a bit, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
39 years old. This is another point. He's a bit older. He was a Division I wrestler, although it doesn't translate to boxing so much. He's an elite athlete. I think that's part of it. He's a BJJ black belt. Same thing, doesn't really translate, but at the same time, he's a pretty high-level fighter. And he fought in Strikeforce and UFC. When you compare him to Jake Paul's had 3 fights for 3 wins against 2 bums and 1 guy that can't punch at all. I would say Askren in a boxing fight is like fighting a moving punching bag, really. So I never had any thoughts in my mind that he was going to win, even though everyone was kind of doubting it and thinking, the fight experience. But you can't win a boxing fight if you can't punch. So exactly, I don't know if any of those opponents count. So Jake Paul's looked pretty good in those fights, but, it's against no one's. He's a little bit taller than Tyrone, 6'1", 185 centimeters. His weight, he seems like he's a heavier weight, bigger sort of guy. I'm not really 100% sure of their walk around weights of both of them, but I'm assuming he's a bit bigger. His reach is 2 inches, or it's at about 5 centimeters longer, 24 years old age. So yeah, that's the tail of the tape. Any ideas, Cole, beyond the on the strengths of Woodley, or maybe the weaknesses as well? Any thoughts on that?
I think Woodley has 2 biggest strengths coming into this. And I think one would just be the pure actual combat experience, being in this game since a young age and just everything. Obviously, he's known as a MMA world champion, UFC guy and that, but obviously he's done a lot more rounds of pure boxing than anyone Jake's fought or anything like that. And then also, I think his athleticism is, if you look at Tyrone Woodley versus Ben Askren, they're polar opposites on the athleticism sort of spectrum, whereas Ben's real slow, ploddy, and Tyrone's really explosive in that. So I think that will favour Tyrone, even though he is old. I was actually watching his fight camp vlogs, and even then he's still looking super fit. He's training like this as well. It's a proper fight, but he has that sort of killer be killed mentality on into it, and he's looking super explosive, quick, powerful. And like you said, he's knocked out plenty of legit guys in 4-ounce gloves. Are they fighting in 8 ounces? Do we know?
I don't know, but I suspect that they'll probably choose a larger glove than 8 ounce. I think they'll be using pretty big gloves.
Yeah, I feel like the bigger they go, the more it'll favour Paul, because I feel like Woodley does have that sort of one pop shot ability to knock him out. But then again, he is almost 40. He's lost his last 4 fights in a row, even though most of them were wrestling or sort of out grappled in that, besides the real Covington fight. Still, it's off 4 losses. He hasn't really looked in peak physical shape. But I think he should be able to get it done just purely off the combat experience and sort of like, it's a veteran versus a newcomer sort of thing. And Paul hasn't faced anyone. He might have sparred guys around Woodley's level in that, but being under the bright lights, facing someone like that with that experience, and it gets into them deeper later rounds, I think that's really when Woodley's going to start sort of showcasing why he should win the fight.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Like exactly what you said. I had it written down. He's experienced 27 fights and he's done like massive fights. He won the championship of UFC welterweight division. He defended 4 times. That sort of mental edge he's going to have is going to be so different. And then this is a real athlete. You watch the way Askren moves and everything. He doesn't look like he's anything, man. And this guy's been a champion wrestler, Division I, NCAA wrestler. That's huge. He played American football. He's fought at a high level. The only thing against him, I would say, a little bit would be that age, and maybe he's in his mind he might have retired a little bit as well. And also he's got that little bit of maybe a height, reach and weight advantage, slight difference, slight weakness.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the keys to victory for Woodley?
I think Woodley has to. I think it will come down to the size and weight, because I don't know what Jake Paul walks around at, but this fight's at 190, so I'm assuming Woodley probably walks around. He looks pretty big, so probably walks around 200 or something. So let's just say he might get in there at 200. It depends how Jake Paul, who I think Jake will probably honestly come in a fair bit bigger than Woodley. So I feel like Woodley can't really sort of engage in that sort of slow, clinchy sort of trying to outbox Jake, because he's longer. Even though Jake hasn't really fought anyone, apparently according to his coaches and like who knows what, but apparently he's a real technical boxer. Against Nate Robinson, he was doing a few good things, like he was punching off a back foot and that. So the kid does have some skill. It's not like Woodley's going to go in there and smoke him. I think he's going to be fairly competitive, but I think Woodley really needs to sort of just work that body early because of height difference, really start trying to tire him down. And as soon as he sees Jake start to fade of that or get sort of exposes him a little bit, he just really needs to sort of hunt for the finish. Whereas I think if he tries to plot around and sort of try and outbox him, I don't think that's the style that's going to win him. I think he needs to just take it to him early, rip his body sort of thing, get him breathing heavy and just sort of keep that pace and pressure and really just try and sort of crumble him in the 8 rounds.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking, I was listening to him yesterday, Tyrone Woodley talking. He said he's treating it super seriously. Like he said, you watch his fight camp. He said he's treating it like he's fighting Mike Tyson. He's training as hard as he can. So that at least he's taking it, kind of seriously. So let's hope that he can do it. I'm divided about how he should go because he's known for those quick knockouts. He just explodes in the first couple of rounds and he can take people out. But can he really do it in a boxing match? And can Jake withstand it if he does? I'm just wondering, is he better off sitting back or is he better off just going for that KO? I don't know. I'd be confused online about what he could do because in those recent fights he's had in UFC, he stays a bit more defensive and then he ends up doing nothing for the whole fight. I'm just a bit worried that he might do that, just back around the ropes and not get hit too much.
Yeah, back onto the ropes, and then maybe
lose his explosiveness and not really be able to KO anyone. So that's the only sort of doubts I have. But I'd like to see him get out there and just blast him. But I'm not so sure he can do that. So
the only other thing is that a lot of the times with his KOs, a lot of them were just purely off of wrestling fakes and that. Like when he drops Darren Till and that, it's all just that level changer over him. Same with Wonderboy and that. So obviously he has a power in that, but it's not like he was piecing them up, faking with his hands to set up his hands. It was more like he would have to fake for level change, get a few takedowns, then fake it, and then set it up. So I'm curious to see how he goes with just his hands without being able to utilize his wrestling in that as well.
Yeah,
But
kind
that
of
being said,
unseen.
if they do clinch up, I think he will have the advantage in the clinch in that. Even though it's not a massive thing, I think he can sort of lay on Jake a bit more and be a bit more dominant in any sort of close sort of clinch situations with him.
Yeah, that's true. That's the big difference between him and Askren as well, that he can actually fight. Like, he can throw punches as well. So he's a threat with the hands as well. It's not just the clinch, whereas Askren only had the clinch. He could probably work in a clinch, but he wouldn't be able to hit him hard off the clinch, or he wouldn't be able to work in the clinch hard either because he can't punch. But this guy can punch. Right. And he would have been engaged in those situations, those in tight situations, for his whole, 10-year MMA career, where he's doing boxing in tight and working for the clinch. So that could be a good avenue, I guess, for him, tire him out and work the body, like you said. What about Jake Paul, man? What do you think are his strengths and weaknesses?
I think probably not Woodley so much, but I think his other opponents were underestimated him. So I think that was a big factor. I haven't watched too much of like his training footage or anything. I did a little bit of research on that, and his coach says obviously his coach is going to back his fighter, but he speaks very highly of him and that. And even some sparring footage and that I watch, he's got a good technical ability. He's bigger and stronger, but I think it's just that big unknown is we haven't seen. It's a big skill difference from who was it? Was it KSI, Nate Robinson, Ben Askren, and now Tyrone Woodley. So he sort of went from the bottom, not so much to the top of boxing, but to the sort of top of fighting people who aren't actually boxers. Like, it's not like if he went and fought a 10-0 boxer, no one would give him a chance. Or because it's an old retired MMA fighter, they're going to give him more of a chance. But there's still a big difference. We haven't sort of seen that middleman to be able to compare him, sort of thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does get it done, but I don't think he will, to be honest. I do think Woodley's going to be really strong, but you can never count anybody out. He's, like he said, he's 24. He was a wrestling champion too, wasn't he? I think.
I don't think they were champions. I don't know if it's both of them or one of them did some wrestling. I'm not sure if it was Jake or his brother.
But if you look at them, they're big, solid built guys. They're athletic. He's got the technique and that behind him. He's training hard. He's taking this super serious. So I think it's just that big unknown factor, which is, I feel like we will sort of see how the fight's going to play out within the first 2 rounds. If it's just going to be paused too quick, young and sort of athletic for Woodley, or if Woodley's just going to be that too experienced veteran and sort of just be able to figure him out and finish him.
Yeah. For me, I reckon he's athletic, obviously athletic. He's doing pretty well for what the experience he has. And he's really, you look at the fights. I mean, I've been to many, many amateur fights. He's really like a decent amateur boxer. That's what he is. Yep. And considering his lack of experience, he's looking pretty good on the big stage. Like, he doesn't look too phased. But the fact is, he has to be phased a little bit, right? Like, getting up there in front of everyone, there has to be a bit of a, some doubts, some stress, etc. in his mind. And that sort of side, I think, will be something that Tyrone has the advantage, obviously, because of his experience getting up there. He obviously has access to top of the line trainers because he's cashed up. He can get anyone to train him he wants. He can get anyone probably to come and spar with him. He can probably afford to get the best heavyweight boxers almost in the world to come and train with him. And the training partners he does get, you see videos of him knocking people out and that. So he's definitely got awesome power, very heavy punches. He's got that youth, 15 years youth. This is probably the biggest thing, I would say, the biggest advantage he has, young and fit, versus a guy that's kind of past his prime, obviously. And then he's got that stupid ignorance and confidence that people have sometimes where they don't know what they are. Like, in his head, he's awesome and he's going to be the best in the world. So this is something he has, which is a bit of an advantage as well. And at the end of the day, nothing really to lose. Like, he's going into a fight with someone that's a proven combat athlete. And if he loses, it's like, so what? I've fought one of the best in the world, one of the best in the world ever in UFC, and I lost. So what,
Yeah, exactly right.
So it's kind of win-win situation. And he could probably retire on the money he's got anyway if he wanted to.
Sure.
Weaknesses, like we said, lack of experience, hasn't fought anyone that can punch yet. Hasn't had to fight through adversity. This is a big one. He's only fought like guys that are not putting pressure on him, no real threat, no real pain. He's not getting tired because he's not fighting really long enough. I'd like to see how he goes when it gets into after a couple of rounds, if it goes that long. And
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
With Woodley's experience, it's going to show through.
Yeah. That's what everyone was saying about Askren, which didn't happen, but this guy's got a bit more punching power. So what do you reckon about the keys to victory for Jake Paul, bro?
Keys to victory. I think he needs to obviously avoid Tyrone's explosiveness, and I think he needs to try and outbox him. I don't think if he wants to get into a dogfight and sort of try and go blow for blow with Tyrone, I think that will play into Woodley's game plan, whereas he's happy to sort of bite down that mouthpiece. He's taken, like, we've never seen Jake Paul take a big shot before, realistically. We've seen Woodley take plenty of big shots. If it comes down to you have to take one to give one, I think that's going to really favour Woodley in that sort of fight. And like you said, dealing with that adversity, if he gets dropped early, how does he bounce back from that? But I think his keys to victory is sort of just playing that outfight and using his size and reach. Even though I don't think he has an advantage if they do clinch up, I think he might try and use his weight in that and try and lay on him a bit to slow the fight down. But I think he's just going to have to stay light, technical, and sort of try and dictate the fight behind his jabs, long straights and stuff like that. Because Woodley's not the sort of cleaner straight puncher. He's a lot of sort of loopy hooks and loopy overhands and that. Whereas if Jake can really sort of keep everything tidy down that center line and good evasive movement and that, and sort of keep his back off the ropes and getting cornered, I think that's how he would win the fight if that's his game plan.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think when you're kicking off with the boxing, like when you start with it, the easiest range to keep and to work is that long range. So I think jab and cross for him, like just the basic stay out of range because he's got that reach advantage, height advantage. I think that's all he's really got. And I think a little bit more about that infighting. That's more of an acquired skill. I don't think it's something he would have picked up in the time he's been working to get that skill of working in tight. I just think it's a skill that takes a lot more time than he's probably been working at. So that might be the area that would be his weakness that he needs to stay away from. So I think long range punches, drop that right hand on Tyrone's head and see what happens. See if he can KO him. So what's your final call, man? We've talked about both strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, you don't like Jake Paul so much, but what do you think will happen? If you're putting money down, who would it be?
Before this, I was actually a bit 50-50, but after actually talking about and breaking it down, I'm actually a lot more confident in Woodley now because I think he has a lot more tools and a few more paths to victory in that. And like you said, I think the biggest X factor is that we haven't seen Jake Paul fight any adversity and we haven't seen him fight anyone close to this sort of caliber of fighter. Even though it's not a boxer, he's still a very experienced combat sports athlete who does have power in his hands. He knows how to use his hands. So I think I'm gonna favor Woodley, and I'm gonna go Woodley by KO, probably late, or probably 6th or 7th round stoppage. I'm thinking.
Yep. I'm kind of like inclined in a way. I'm not a big fan of Jake Paul. I think he's doing pretty well, but I'm pretty inclined to step on the side of skill and experience as well in this case. Last one, I was like, Askren can't win because he can't fucking punch.
He can't punch it.
Now he's fighting against someone that can punch. I think someone that can punch, someone that has the skills to work in close, has the skills to take a punch, has the skills to move in and out. I think he's going to have trouble with him, and I hope as well that Woodley can, take it and perhaps KO him. I also said KO in the second round. I think first round they probably have to feel each other out a bit, and he probably needs to take the edge off Jake Paul's punches a little bit. Yeah. And then second round will be probably the prime time for Woodley to have a go because he gets tired too. He's that short, stocky, explosive muscle type. He's not going to be able to be too explosive for too long. So the only other way would be if he keeps engaging in close, like we said, because I don't think Paul's going to have those skills. If he works him really hard in close, he might win through that battle of attrition of a real dogfight in tight. Yeah. So let's see what his trainers have set what game plan to fight Paul. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. It should be a cracker.
Yeah.
A lot better than the Askren one.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be pretty intense to watch, and they're kind of funny shows to watch with Snoop and everyone.
Yeah.
Funny stuff.
What was the one that Golden Boy did? Oscar De La Hoya. That one was a shit show. Where he was on the commentary table in that. I think it was it Mayweather and Paul? It was a different one. I think it was the Askren one he did.
Yeah.
I think it was. Their commentary team was terrible for that one. Yeah. It's just like a spectacle sort of thing. But then again, it's good entertainment value because it gets people talking about it.
Exactly. All right, man. Colby, thanks for your time, and we'll catch up and talk about some other fights soon.
Legend for sure. Cheers, brother.